Commander Paul Mitchell stood at the observation deck of the USS Horizon, watching as the massive human ship completed its docking sequence with Galactic Union Station Alpha. The station looked like a giant metal snowflake spinning slowly in space with hundreds of ships from across the galaxy attached to its many arms. This was a historic moment, the first human vessel to dock at the main hub of galactic civilization. "Nervous, Commander?" asked Dr. Susan Carter as she joined him at the window. Paul smiled slightly. "Not for myself. For Lily and the other kids. First contact is hard enough for adults." Susan nodded. 23 children had made the journey with their parents aboard the Horizon, and today, they would attend their first day at the station's education center. Paul's 10-year-old daughter Lily was among them. "The children will adapt faster than we will," Susan said. "They always do." Paul hoped she was right. The Galactic Union had over 30 different species as members, all with their own customs and social structures. The diplomatic team had spent months preparing the adults. The children had received only basic orientation. "Captain Daniels to Commander Mitchell," his communication device chimed. "Please report to the education wing immediately. There's been an incident." Paul felt his stomach drop. "Already? We've been docked for 3 hours." When Paul arrived at the education wing, he found Captain Greg Daniels standing outside an office door, looking both concerned and slightly amused. "What happened?" Paul asked. "Apparently," Greg said quietly, "there's been some kind of altercation between our kids and some Zolaxian students," Paul groaned. The Zolaxians were one of the more intimidating species in the Union, tall, tentacled beings with color-changing skin that expressed their emotions. "Is Lily involved?" "She appears to be the ringleader," Greg said, failing to hide a smile. They entered the office where Dean Groknar, a cephalarian administrator with 6 arms and deep purple skin, sat behind a large desk. Beside the desk stood 3 young Zolaxians, each about a foot taller than a human adult despite being children. 2 of them had bandages on their tentacles. On the other side of the room stood 5 human children, including Lily. None of them looked injured, though young Kevin Rodriguez had a torn shirt sleeve. "Commander Mitchell," the dean said, skin flashing blue patterns of annoyance, "I must inform you that your offspring have damaged 3 Zolaxian juveniles during a standard socialization ritual." Paul blinked. "They did what?" Dean Groknar gestured to a screen on the wall. "Perhaps the security footage will clarify the situation." The screen showed the station's recreation area. The human children were exploring their new surroundings when 3 Zolaxian children approached them. The Zolaxians were clearly older and much larger, with their skin pulsing intimidating patterns of red and orange. The footage had no sound, but it was clear the Zolaxians were saying something that made the human children bunch together defensively. When one Zolaxian reached out a tentacle toward Kevin, wrapping it around his arm, Lily moved quickly. She grabbed the tentacle and pulled hard, causing the surprised Zolaxian to stumble forward. The other human children immediately joined in. 8-year-old Ben Miller slid between another Zolaxian's tentacles and kicked it precisely where 2 tentacles joined its body. The alien doubled over in what was clearly pain. The 3rd Zolaxian tried to retreat, but 9-year-old Amy Ford tackled it from behind, while 12-year-old Jack Williams disabled 2 of its tentacles with well-placed stomps. The entire confrontation lasted less than 30 seconds. "As you can see," Dean Groknar said, turning off the screen, "your children responded to a standard dominance ritual with extreme physical violence." Paul tried to keep his face neutral. "Could you explain what you mean by standard dominance?" "Ritual?" The dean's skin rippled with patches of green, a sign of confusion Paul had learned. In all civilized species, juveniles establish hierarchical structures through dominance demonstrations. The Zolaxian students were simply establishing their place as senior students. This is normal educational practice. "I see," Paul said carefully. "On Earth we call that bullying, and we teach our children not to accept it." The dean's confusion deepened, her skin now almost entirely green. "Bullying? This is an untranslatable term." One of the young Zolaxians spoke up, its voice translating through the room's systems. "The human younglings should have submitted when we demonstrated our superior size and strength. Instead, they attacked us. They are savage. Lily stepped forward, arms crossed. You tried to scare us and grab Kevin. On our planet, we don't let bullies push us around. Bullies? The young Zalaxian repeated, tentacles twitching in confusion. Captain Daniels cleared his throat. It seems we have a cultural misunderstanding. Perhaps Dr. Carter should join us to help explain human social dynamics. While they waited for the xenoanthropologist to arrive, Paul pulled Lily aside. How did you know where to hit them? He whispered. Lily shrugged. We didn't. But we figured those spots where their tentacles connect to their bodies probably hurt if you kick them. Like how knees are weak points for us. Paul tried not to look impressed. And you organized the other kids to fight back? We made a plan. During orientation yesterday, Lily explained matter-of-factly, Ben said the aliens might try to push us around because we're new and different, so we agreed to stick together and help each other. Paul wasn't sure whether to be proud or concerned. His daughter had essentially created a defensive pact among the human children before they even met their first alien. When Dr. Carter arrived, she listened to both sides and then addressed the dean. It appears we have fundamentally different views on childhood development. In human society, we discourage dominance hierarchies based solely on physical strength. Our children are taught to resist intimidation and protect one another. The dean's skin showed patterns of both confusion and interest. Fascinating and disturbing. You encourage your juveniles to resist natural order? We encourage them to build social bonds based on cooperation and mutual respect, Susan explained. Physical intimidation is considered inappropriate behavior. The three young Zalaxians were staring at the human children with new expressions. Their skin patterns showed something that looked almost like respect mixed with caution. Perhaps, Captain Daniels suggested, we should use this as a learning opportunity for both species. Our children need to understand that different cultures have different social norms, and the Zalaxian children can learn about human values. Dean. Groknar's skin gradually shifted to a more neutral blue. This is acceptable. I will arrange cultural exchange sessions. But I must warn you, news of this incident will spread quickly through the station. Many species will find human juvenile behavior quite shocking. As they left the office, Paul noticed Lily making eye contact with the lead Zalaxian child. The alien's tentacles twitched in what might have been a gesture of acknowledgement. Lily gave a small nod in return. Paul had a feeling this was just the beginning of humanity's cultural impact on the galactic community, and somehow the children were leading the way. You know, Greg said quietly as they walked back toward the human quarters. I think we've been worried about the wrong first contact scenarios all along. What do you mean? Paul asked. Greg smiled. We prepared for diplomatic mistakes, technological gaps, even military conflicts, but nobody prepared the galaxy for human children. Word spread quickly through Galactic Union Station Alpha about the human children who had fought back against Zalaxian dominance rituals. 3 days after the incident, the human diplomatic team found themselves in yet another emergency meeting with station officials. What does pecking order mean? Asked Ambassador Shikthala, her insect-like mandibles clicking nervously as she consulted her translation device. The tall mantis-like alien represented the Arcturian Collective, one of the older species in the Union. Dr. Susan Carter tried not to sigh. This was the third emergency meeting this week. Around the table sat representatives from 7 different species, all looking at the humans with expressions ranging from curiosity to concern. At least Susan thought they were concerned. Reading alien facial expressions was still challenging. It refers to how chickens, earthbirds, establish their social hierarchy through pecking, Susan explained. We sometimes use it as a metaphor for social dominance structures. And human children reject this natural order? Asked Grohl, a stocky reptilian diplomat whose scales shimmered under the room's lights. Captain Greg Daniels leaned forward. It appears our species have fundamentally different views on childhood development. In many of your cultures, juveniles establish hierarchy through dominance displays. The stronger control, the weaker. This is the universal way, nodded Dean Groknar. who now wore a special translator band to help with complex cultural concepts. How else do the young learn their place in society? In human culture, Susan continued, we teach our children that forcing others to submit through fear or physical intimidation, what we call bullying, is wrong. We value cooperation and mutual respect over dominance. The alien representatives exchanged troubled glances. The Zolaxian representative, still sporting bandages on 2 tentacles from where his child had been injured, finally spoke. This is most disturbing. You produce warriors from infancy? No, Paul Mitchell said firmly. We produce humans who stand up for themselves and others. Ambassador Shikthala's antennae twitched rapidly. But how do your young establish who leads? Who follows? Through cooperation, earned respect, and demonstrated skill, Susan answered. Human children can recognize natural leadership qualities without requiring physical domination. The aliens seemed both fascinated and troubled by this concept. The meeting continued for hours as the human representatives tried to explain playground politics, friendship groups, and the complex social world of human children. Meanwhile, across the station in the education wing, Lily Mitchell was facing her own diplomatic challenge. She sat in the cafeteria, surrounded by a mix of human and alien children. Beside her was Kevin Rodriguez, and across from them sat 3 alien students, a young Zolaxian named T-Lock, a furry Vexarian child, and a small, crystalline being who communicated through light pulses. I still don't understand, T-Lock said, his tentacles moving in confused patterns. If no one establishes dominance, how do you decide who gets to make decisions in your friend groups? We take turns, Ben Miller explained as he joined their table. Or we pick the person who's best at whatever we're doing. The crystalline child flashed a series of lights that the translator converted to. This seems inefficient. Maybe, Lily admitted, but it's more fun when everyone feels included. Talok's skin rippled with thoughtful blue patterns. Yesterday, Kirill tried to establish dominance over me because he is 2 cycles older, but I remembered how you humans defended each other, so I told him I wouldn't accept his dominance display. His color shifted to an excited pink. He was so surprised he didn't know what to do. The human children exchanged looks of satisfaction. Just 1 table away, Amy Ford was teaching a group of Pentapodian children how to play rock, paper, scissors. The 5-armed aliens were fascinated by the simple game of chance that required no physical dominance to play. Across the cafeteria, Jack Williams had organized a mixed-species relay race for after lunch, creating teams that deliberately mixed different species together. This forced the aliens to learn about each other's physical abilities and limitations. The Vexarians were fast but tired quickly, while the Zolaxians had excellent reach with their tentacles, but moved more slowly. A bell-like sound indicated the end of lunch period. As the children filed out, a tall Zolaxian administrator stopped Lily in the hallway. Young human, the administrator said, skin pulsing curious yellow patterns. I have been observing your interaction rituals. You appear to be establishing influence, without dominance displays. How is this possible? Lily thought for a moment. It's called friendship. We like each other and help each other because it makes everyone happier. The administrator's skin showed confusion. And this friendship creates group cohesion without fear? Exactly. Lily nodded. Fear makes people do what you want, but only when you're watching. Friendship makes them want to help even when you're not there. The Zolaxian made a note in its datapad. Fascinating. Potentially evolutionary advantage. Back in the diplomatic conference room, the meeting was finally ending. The alien representatives had requested time to consult with their governments about this unexpected aspect of human culture. Do you think they understand? Paul asked Susan as they walked back to the human quarters. Not really, Susan admitted. Their social structures have been based on dominance hierarchies for thousands of years. The idea that there's another way to organize society is revolutionary to them. Captain Daniels joined them in the corridor. The station educational board has approved our request for a human teacher to join the school staff. They want to observe our educational methods directly. That's progress, Paul nodded. But I'm more concerned about our kids. Will they be safe? I think they've already shown they can handle themselves, Greg said with a smile. And from what I hear, they're making allies fast. He wasn't wrong. At that very moment, in the station's recreation module, an incredible scene was unfolding. Lily and 5 other human children were teaching a group of 20 alien children how to play freeze tag. Species that had traditionally kept their juveniles separated were now running, laughing, and playing together. Dean Groknar watched from the observation deck, her skin showing complex patterns of amazement and concern. They form bonds across species lines so easily, she said to her assistant. No dominance rituals at all. Is this dangerous? The assistant asked. The dean's skin flickered thoughtfully. Perhaps, but perhaps it is also evolutionary. Later that evening, when Lily returned to their family quarters, Paul noticed something strange attached to her school uniform, a small shimmering object that looked like a crystalline flower. What's that? He asked. Oh, Zix gave it to me, Lily said, referring to the crystalline child. It's a friendship token. They give pieces of their outer shell to those they trust. It'll grow back for them. Paul was stunned. The diplomatic team had been told that the crystalline species, the Lumari, were among the most reclusive and untrusting in the Union. You've made friends with the Lumari? In 3 days? Lily shrugged as if it was no big deal. They were sitting alone at lunch and looked sad. Their lights were all dim blue, so I sat with them. Turns out they're really good at math and helped me with my assignment. Paul realized then what the station administrator had been trying to tell them. Human children weren't just defending themselves against alien cultural norms. They were actively changing those norms one friendship at a time. 2 weeks had passed since the human ship USS Horizon docked at Galactic Union Station Alpha. In that time, the human children had created quite a stir throughout the station. News of their unusual social behavior had spread to every corner of the massive space structure. In a dimly lit maintenance corridor on Level 7, far from adult supervision, a group of teenage Zolaxians gathered in secret. Their leader, a 15-year-old named Kirill, pulsed angry red patterns across his skin as he addressed the others. The tiny humans have made us look weak, Kirill said, his tentacles moving sharply with frustration. My parent units question my dominance potential. Yesterday, my clutch parent asked if I needed additional physical training because human juveniles half my size seem more capable. The 5 other Zolaxian teens shifted uncomfortably. Among their species, being compared unfavorably to other juveniles was deeply shameful. What can we do? Asked one named Vrix. The station administrators have forbidden traditional dominance rituals in the education center now. Kirill's skin flashed with determination. We must reassert ourselves, show everyone that Zolaxians are still the most dominant juvenile species on this station. His friend Tilak waved his tentacles nervously. But the human offspring are dangerous. They have those hard limbs and move unpredictably. Remember what they did to the younger ones who tried to establish dominance? We've studied them now, Kirill insisted. They have weaknesses. They're emotional and protective of each other. We'll target the smallest one, Ben Miller. The young Zolaxians spent the next hour planning their move. Unlike the younger Zolaxians who had confronted the human children directly, Kirill was smarter. He had observed the humans carefully and noticed how they always defended their smallest members. Ben Miller, at 8 years old and smaller than the other humans, would make a perfect target. Meanwhile, in the station's recreation module, Ben was teaching a fascinated group of alien children how to play basketball. The station engineers had installed a lower-height basket after Ben had requested it from the recreation supervisor. No, Glix, you can't use all 6 arms to hold the ball. That's traveling, Ben explained patiently to a Pentapodian student, a blue-skinned alien with 5 muscular arms. But I have 6 arms. Why create a rule that favors species with only 2 arms? Glix complained, but without real anger. Because the challenge makes it fun, Ben explained. If you could use all your advantages, you'd win every time, and nobody would want to play with you. The concept seemed to strike Glix deeply. So, Limiting my natural superiority creates better group harmony. Exactly. Ben grinned. Plus, it makes you think creatively about how to use your strengths within the rules. Around them, a dozen alien children from 7 different species were taking turns shooting the ball at the basket. Each species had different natural advantages and challenges. The crystalline Lumari could barely move the ball, while the tall Arcturians could almost place it in the basket. Yet they were all laughing and encouraging each other. None of them noticed the group of Zalaxian teenagers entering the gym, Tentacles twitching with anticipation, but Lily Mitchell, who was watching from the sidelines, did. She had developed a keen sense for potential trouble over the past 2 weeks. Quietly, Lily took out her tablet and sent a message to her friend Kevin. Within minutes, human children from across the recreation deck began to casually make their way toward the basketball court. Kirill positioned his friends around the edges of the court, trying to look casual. He waited for the perfect moment when Ben stepped away from the main group to retrieve the ball from a corner. As Ben bent to pick up the ball, Kirill moved quickly toward him. "Small human," Kirill said loudly, his skin pulsing intimidating patterns of red and orange. "I wish to establish proper hierarchy with you." Ben straightened up, the ball clutched in his hands. Though his heart raced, he kept his face calm just as Lily had taught all the human kids. "Hi, Kirill. Did you want to play basketball with us?" This wasn't the response Kirill expected. He flashed confused yellow patches across his skin before returning to aggressive red. "I am not here for your primitive games. I am here to show everyone the proper order of things." By now, the other alien children had stopped playing and were watching with wide eyes or eye stalks or sensory pits depending on their species. The Zolaxian teens moved closer, forming a loose circle around Ben. "That's an interesting idea," Ben said calmly, bouncing the basketball. "But you should know something important about humans first." Kirill's skin showed irritation. "What could I possibly need to know about primitive human juveniles?" Ben smiled. "We have a defensive symbiotic relationship with microscopic organisms. We call them cooties." Kirill's color patterns faltered. "Cooties? This is not in our xenobiology database." By now, Kevin Rodriguez had casually positioned himself near Ben, and 3 other human children had moved closer as well. Jack Williams spoke up from the edge of the court. "Oh yeah, cooties are super dangerous to non-humans," Jack said seriously. "They live on our skin, harmless to us, but they jump to other species when we feel threatened." Lily joined in, her face a perfect mask of concern. "They're especially attracted to tentacles. They burrow in and multiply rapidly." Kirill's skin now showed patterns of alarm. Like most spacefaring species, Zolaxians were well aware of the dangers of cross-species microbes. Their education included extensive warnings about unknown biological agents. You are making this up," Kirill said, but his tentacles had pulled in closer to his body protectively. "Ask your xenobiology teacher about human symbiotic defenses," Amy Ford suggested innocently. "We assumed everyone knew about cooties. It's why none of the Lumari children will touch us directly." This was technically true. The crystalline Lumari avoided physical contact with all species, but the Zolaxians didn't know that. Kirill's skin now showed patches of worry, mixed with embarrassment. His careful plan was falling apart. "You are trying to trick me." "Why would we trick you?" Ben asked, still bouncing the basketball. "We just want to play our game. You're welcome to join us if you follow the rules." This simple offer, to join rather than dominate, confused Kirill even more. His friends were looking at him uncertainly, their skin showing mixed patterns of confusion and worry about these cooties. "I will consult the xenobiology database first," Kirill finally said, backing away. "This interaction is temporarily paused." The Zalaxian teenagers retreated quickly, their tentacles held carefully away from any human child they passed. As soon as they left, the human children burst into laughter. "Cooties?" Amy giggled. "Really, Ben?" Ben shrugged. "My big sister used to scare me with cooties all the time. I figured if it worked on a human boy, it might work on alien teenagers." What none of them realized was that a station security officer, a veteran Arcturian named Drav, had been watching the entire interaction on the security feed. Drav had been assigned to monitor the human children specifically, as station administration considered them potentially disruptive. Fascinating. Drav clicked to his assistant. The human juveniles deployed psychological deterrence instead of physical confrontation. They manipulated the Zolaxians' fear of unknown biological threats. Should we inform the Zolaxians that these cooties do not exist? His assistant asked. Drav's antennae twitched thoughtfully. No. I believe this is what humans call a teachable moment. Let the Zolaxian juveniles check their databases and learn about verification of threats. Back on the basketball court, the game had resumed. But something had changed. 3 Arcturian children who had been watching from a distance now approached Ben. We would like to learn this basketball also, said the tallest one. We observed how you handled the confrontation without violence. This is interesting. As Ben eagerly began explaining the rules to the newcomers, Lily caught the eye of a young Zolaxian watching from the corridor, Talak, who had been with Kirill but had stayed behind. His skin showed patterns of curiosity and something else, something that looked remarkably like respect. Human children weren't just defending themselves anymore. They were changing the very culture of the station, one game at a time. The story about human cooties spread through the station faster than anyone could have predicted. 3 days after the incident in the recreation module, Commander Paul Mitchell found himself once again summoned to a meeting, this time with the station's chief medical officer. Dr. Zorkal was a Vexarian, a species that resembled earth foxes but stood upright and had 6 limbs. His fur rippled with concern as Paul entered his office. Commander Mitchell, the doctor said, his translator converting his yips and growls into English. We have a situation regarding human biological defenses. Paul tried not to smile. He had already heard about the cooties incident from Lily. What seems to be the problem, doctor? The Vexarian pulled up a display showing an analysis of human skin cells. My office has received 17 urgent requests from various species asking about human defensive microorganisms, particularly something called cooties. Paul couldn't hold back his laugh this time. I think I need to explain a human childhood concept to you. 20 minutes later, after Paul had explained the imaginary nature of cooties and their role in human childhood social dynamics, Dr. Zorkal's fur had settled back to its normal pattern. So these cooties are a fictional construct used by human children to establish social boundaries? The doctor asked, making notes. Exactly, Paul confirmed. Our children made up a story to protect themselves from bullying without having to resort to physical confrontation. Dr. Zorkal's ears perked up. Fascinating. They weaponized xenobiological anxiety instead of using physical force. Most ingenious. As Paul left the medical office, he found Captain Daniels waiting for him in the corridor. Another fire put out? Greg asked with a smile. For now, Paul nodded. But I'm starting to think our kids are having a bigger impact on interspecies relations than our entire diplomatic team. Greg's smile faded slightly. That's actually why I came to find you. The station's education board has called an emergency session. They're concerned about the disruptive influence of human children on established social structures. Meanwhile, in the education center's main classroom, Lily Mitchell was facing an unexpected challenge of her own. Her teacher, a tall Arcturian named Tixel, had assigned a group project and had deliberately placed Lily in a group with Kirill, the teenage Zolaxian who had tried to intimidate Ben. The assignment is to create a presentation on different species' social structures, Tixel announced to the class. Each group will research and present on how juveniles interact in their respective cultures. Lily glanced at Kirill, whose skin showed patterns of discomfort and annoyance. The other members of their group included Talak, the younger Zolaxian who had shown interest in human ways, Zix, the crystalline Lumari child, and Glix, the 6-armed Pentapodian who had been learning basketball from Ben. I suggest we begin by each describing our own culture's approach, Lily said when they gathered at their assigned table. Kirill's skin flashed with irritation. Zolaxians should present first, as we have the oldest civilization in this group. That's Fine with me, Lily agreed easily, surprising Kirill. I'd love to learn more about your culture. The tension in Kirill's tentacles visibly relaxed. He hadn't expected the human to yield so easily. Very well. Zalaxian culture is based on clear demonstration of strength and ability. Those with superior traits lead, those with lesser traits follow. It is simple and effective. And how do you determine who has superior traits? Lily asked, genuinely curious. Through dominance rituals, Kirill explained, his skin now showing patches of pride. The strongest, most intelligent, or most skilled demonstrates their superiority, and others acknowledge it. Talak's skin flickered with what Lily had come to recognize as embarrassment. But Kirill, what about what happened with the human children? They did not respond to dominance displays as expected. Kirill's colors darkened. A temporary confusion. They simply do not understand proper social order yet. Lily smiled. Actually, we understand it. We just don't agree with it. Humans believe that forcing others to submit doesn't prove you're better. It just proves you're a bully. Bully, repeated Zix through their translator, light pulses flashing. This concept fascinates the Lumari. Using force against those who cannot resist is considered wasteful, unproductive. Glix joined in, all 5 eyes blinking in sequence. Pentapodians have a similar view. We believe true strength comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. Kirill seemed stunned. His skin showed confused patterns of blue and yellow. But how do you establish leadership without dominance? We take turns leading based on who has the best skills for the situation, Lily explained. Like when we play basketball, Ben leads because he knows the game best, not because he's the biggest or strongest. As their discussion continued, the classroom door slid open. The education board members filed in, followed by Commander Mitchell, Captain Daniels, and Dr. Carter. They positioned themselves at the back of the room, quietly observing. Let's continue our project, Tixel announced to the class. Each group will now role-play a social interaction from another species' culture. Kirill's group was called first. To everyone's surprise, Kirill announced, we will demonstrate a human playground game called Tag that shows their cooperative social structure. The adults at the back of the room exchanged looks of amazement as Kirill, the once arrogant Zalaxian teen, explained the rules of Tag to the class and demonstrated with his group how humans played without establishing permanent hierarchies. The interesting element, Kirill explained, his skin showing scholarly blue patterns, is that the human role of it rotates. No one remains in the inferior position permanently, and no one maintains dominance. The purpose is entertainment and exercise, not establishing order. When they finished their demonstration, the education board members were taking rapid notes. Dean Groknar's skin showed patterns of deep thought. After class, Paul caught up with Lily in the corridor. That was quite a presentation. I'm impressed that you got Kirill to participate so enthusiastically. Lily shrugged. He's actually pretty smart. Once he understood that humans weren't rejecting him personally, just his approach, he got really interested in how our social systems work. Paul looked at his daughter with new eyes. You know, the diplomatic team has been struggling for weeks to explain human social concepts to the station officials. That's because adults make everything complicated, Lily said matter-of-factly. Kids just want to know the rules so they can play together. As they walked toward the habitat ring, they passed the recreation module where an extraordinary scene was unfolding. Kirill and several other Zolaxian teenagers were teaching a mixed group of younger aliens how to play freeze tag, with Ben Miller helping to explain the rules. No dominance, just fun, Krill was saying, his skin glowing with excited patterns. And remember, if you get tagged, you freeze until a teammate unfreezes you. The teammate helps you even though there's no benefit to them? Asked a confused young Arcturian. Exactly. Kirill's tentacles moved in what Paul now recognized as enthusiasm. That's what makes it meaningful. Helping others when you don't have to. Humans call it kindness. Paul turned to Lily with wonder. How did you manage to change his mind so completely in just one class session? Lily smiled. I didn't. Ben did it days ago when he offered to let Kirill join the basketball game instead of fighting him. Kirill just needed time to think about it. As they continued walking, they passed Dr. Zorkal in the corridor. The Vexarian doctor stopped and bowed slightly to Lily. "Young human, I must thank you for the cooties lesson," he said, whiskers twitching with amusement. "It has led to the most fascinating research proposal of my career, how fictional concepts can function as effective defense mechanisms across species boundaries." Lily grinned. "You're welcome. Next time I'll tell you about the floor being lava." The doctor looked alarmed. "Your earth floors occasionally transform into molten rock?" As Paul led his chuckling daughter away, promising to explain the joke later, he realized that humanity's greatest contribution to galactic society might not be their technology, science, or military strength. It might just be their playground games. 6 months had passed since the USS Horizon first docked at Galactic Union Station Alpha. The massive space station spun peacefully against the backdrop of stars, but inside, a quiet revolution had taken place. The Grand Assembly Hall of the station was filled with representatives from 32 different species. They had gathered for the Galactic Education Summit, a major event held once every 5 years. This year, the summit had one main topic: the human-child phenomenon. Commander Paul Mitchell sat with Captain Greg Daniels and Dr. Susan Carter in the front row. They wore their formal uniforms and tried to appear calm, though all three felt nervous. The decisions made at this summit would affect not just the human children on the station, but potentially how the entire Galactic Union viewed humanity. On the presentation stage, Principal Zix stood at the podium. The crystalline being had replaced Dean Groknar 3 months ago after what station residents now called the Great Social Restructuring. Principal Zix's light patterns glowed in formal patterns as they addressed the assembly. "Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Union," Zix began, their translator converting light pulses into speech. "6 months ago, we welcomed the first human vessel to our station. We expected many challenges: technological incompatibilities, resource allocation issues, perhaps even security concerns. What we did not anticipate was that the greatest impact would come from their juveniles." The screen behind Zix displayed footage of human and alien children playing together in the recreation module. When human children first entered our education system, many of us viewed their rejection of traditional dominance structures as dangerous, even primitive, Zix continued. Yet as we have observed them, many of us have been forced to reconsider our assumptions about juvenile development. The screen now showed classroom footage where mixed groups of alien and human children worked together on projects, taking turns, leading discussions and helping each other. To help us understand this phenomenon, I would like to invite 2 of our students to present their research project on comparative social development. Paul felt a surge of pride as Lily Mitchell walked onto the stage. Beside her was Kirill, the once hostile Zolaxian teenager who had tried to bully Ben. The two stood side by side, no longer enemies but research partners and, more surprisingly, friends. "Thank you, Principal Zix," Lily said confidently. Though only 10 years old, she showed no fear addressing hundreds of alien dignitaries. 6 months ago, Kirill and I had what humans would call a cultural misunderstanding. Kirill's skin rippled with what the audience now recognized as amused agreement. "What Lily means is that I attempted to establish dominance, and she and her friends refused to submit." This brought a wave of light chuckles and equivalent reactions from the audience. "In Zolaxian culture," Kirill continued, "strength is demonstrated through dominance rituals. The strong lead, the weak follow. This system has served my species for thousands of years. And in human schools," Lily explained, "we learn that strength isn't just physical. It's about character, kindness, and standing up for what's right. We don't let bullies push us around even if they're bigger or stronger." Kirill's tentacles moved gracefully as he operated the presentation controls. "Our research project compared these approaches across 12 different species represented in our education center. We found something unexpected." The screen displayed a graph showing social satisfaction rates among juvenile students. "In every species we studied," Lily continued, "juveniles reported greater satisfaction and better learning outcomes in mixed social groups, where leadership was based on skill and mutual respect rather than dominance. What followed was 30 minutes of data, case studies, and examples. Though simplified for a young audience, the research was impressive. Kirill explained how Zalaxian children had initially struggled with the concept of taking turns, but now showed improved problem-solving skills when working in mixed groups. Lily presented evidence that human children had benefited too, learning patience and new perspectives from their alien friends. When they finished, the assembly hall was silent for a moment. Then the Arcturian High Chancellor stood, all four arms raised in the gesture of formal respect. "We have much to consider," the Chancellor said. "Perhaps our oldest traditions are not always our wisest." After the presentation, the corridors outside the assembly hall buzzed with conversation as representatives debated what they had seen. Paul found Lily talking excitedly with Kirill near a refreshment station. "That was amazing," Paul told his daughter, giving her a quick hug. "Your research was impressive." "Kirill did most of the data analysis," Lily said generously. "His species is really good with patterns." "And Lily designed the social experiments," Kirill added, his skin glowing with warm orange patterns of friendship. "Humans are remarkably creative." The Galactic Education Board approached them, led by a tall Vexarian administrator. "We have reached a decision," she announced. "The human educational model will be incorporated into our curriculum across all Galactic Union facilities. We believe the human approach to social development, combined with the best elements of other species traditions, will benefit all our juveniles." That evening, a celebration was held in the station's main atrium. Human and alien families mingled freely, sharing food and stories. In one corner, Ben Miller was teaching Kirill how to play chess, a game the young Zalaxian had become fascinated with. "I don't understand why the smallest piece can become the most powerful by reaching the other side," Kirill said, studying the pawn he had just promoted to a queen. "That's kind of the point," Ben explained. "In chess, even the smallest piece has potential. It's not about how you start, but how you play the game." Across the room, Commander Mitchell stood with Dr. Carter, watching the children interact. "You know what I've realized?" Susan said softly. "When we prepared for first contact, we focused on the wrong things. Diplomatic protocols, technological exchange, military preparedness. But it's our children who built the real bridge between species." Paul nodded, watching as Lily high-fived Kirill's tentacle after the Zalaxian made a good move in chess. "The Zalaxians thought they were teaching our kids about dominance. Instead, our kids taught them about friendship. And apparently," Susan added with a smile, "the galaxy wasn't ready for the most powerful force humans bring to interstellar relations." "What's that?" "Playground diplomacy." Later that night, as families returned to their quarters, a small ceremony took place in the education center. Principal Zix presided as Kirill and several other alien teenagers were officially named Playground Ambassadors, a new position created to help integrate new species into the station's social life through games and cooperative activities. Kirill's parent units watched with glowing skin patterns as their child received this honor. Kirill had explained that in the old system, he would have been respected for his ability to dominate others. Now, he was honored for his ability to help others belong. As Paul tucked Lily into bed that night, she yawned sleepily. "Dad, do you think we changed the galaxy just by being kids?" Paul smiled and kissed her forehead. "I think you reminded the galaxy of something important that many species had forgotten." "What's that?" Lily asked, her eyes already closing. "That being strong enough to be kind is more impressive than being strong enough to dominate," Paul said, softly. "Now get some sleep. You have zero-gravity dodgeball with the Arcturian kids tomorrow, and I hear they've been practicing." As Paul turned out the light, he thought about the journey they had taken. The USS Horizon had come to learn about galactic civilization, but perhaps humanity had brought something valuable to teach as well. Not advanced technology or powerful weapons, but something much simpler and more powerful. The playground wisdom of human children who knew that bullies with tentacles weren't so different from bullies back on Earth. And both kinds learned the same lesson in the end. If you try to bully human children, you'd better be prepared for the consequences.